There's a loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from outgrowing the people who once felt like home. And if you're feeling it right now, that strange, aching distance between you and the friends who used to understand you, this is not what you think it is. You're not losing people because something's wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not cold. You're not selfish for wanting more. You're changing vibration. And the universe is rearranging your life to match who you're becoming. Let's sit with that for a moment. Because most people will tell you that good friendships last forever. That real connections weather any storm. That if someone walks away, it's because you did something wrong. But what if that's not the whole truth? What if some relationships aren't meant to last a lifetime? Not because they were fake, but because they were seasonal. What if the people leaving your life right now are not abandoning you? They're simply no longer a vibrational match for where you're going. You've probably felt it already. The conversations that used to flow now feel forced. The people who once energized you now drain you. The friendships that felt effortless now require performance. You find yourself editing your words, dimming your light, pretending you're still the person you were 6 months ago just to keep the peace. And afterward you feel exhausted, hollow, like you left a piece of yourself behind just to maintain a connection that no longer fits. This is what happens when you begin to rise, when you start doing the inner work, when you stop numbing yourself with distractions and start facing your shadows, when you choose healing over comfort, when you set boundaries, when you speak your truth, when you stop apologizing for your growth. The frequency you're operating on begins to shift, and not everyone can come with you. Think of it like this. Every human being is a radio station broadcasting on a certain frequency. When you meet someone and there's that instant click, that feeling of being seen, understood, known, it's because your frequencies are aligned. You're tuned to the same station. You laugh at the same things. You value the same things. Your energy matches. But here's what most people don't understand. Frequencies aren't fixed. They change. You change. And as you evolve, the signal you're broadcasting shifts. You start tuning into different stations, higher ones, clearer ones, and suddenly, the static between you and certain people becomes impossible to ignore. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that you're better than them. It's that you're no longer operating on the same wavelength. The things that used to bond you, complaining, gossiping, partying, staying stuck in the same patterns, those things no longer resonate with you. You've outgrown them. Not out of judgment, but out of alignment. And when that happens, the relationship naturally begins to dissolve. Not with drama, not with a fight, just a quiet fading, a slow, inevitable drift. And it hurts, God, it hurts, because these were your people, the ones who knew you when, the ones who saw you through breakups and breakthroughs, the ones you thought would be there forever. And now, when you need support the most, when you're actually trying to become the best version of yourself, they're pulling away. Or worse, they're mocking you, calling you too serious, too spiritual, too much. And you start to wonder if maybe you are. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe you should just go back to who you were. At least then, you weren't alone. But here's the truth they wouldn't tell you in school or in self-help books or in those motivational posts that make growth sound easy. Evolution is lonely. Transformation is isolating. Rising in frequency means leaving behind everything and everyone that vibrates lower. And for a while, you're going to be in between, no longer who you were, but not yet surrounded by the people who match who you're becoming. It's a kind of death, a shedding of skin, and it feels like loss because it is loss, but it's also liberation. Carl Jung understood this. He spoke about individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, separate from the expectations and projections of others. And he was clear, this process will cost you relationships. Because most people are living unconsciously, moving through life on autopilot, repeating patterns they've never questioned. When you wake up, when you start questioning those patterns, when you start choosing differently, you become a mirror, and mirrors make people uncomfortable. They reflect back what someone isn't ready to see. So, instead of looking inward, they'll look at you and decide you're the problem. You're changing, you're different, you're not fun anymore. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and join a community of awakened souls walking the same journey of spiritual alignment. And maybe you're not in the way you used to be, because you're learning that real joy doesn't come from distraction, that peace doesn't come from pretending, that connection doesn't come from shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You're learning that your energy is the most valuable thing you have, and you get to choose where you spend it. And some people, no matter how much history you share, are no longer an energetic match for that choice. Imagine a river. When you were younger, you flowed in one direction, surrounded by others moving the same way. The current was familiar, predictable, safe. But then something shifted. Maybe it was pain, maybe it was awakening, maybe it was just time, and you started flowing differently, towards something deeper, something truer. And the people who were floating beside you, they're still in the old current. They're still where you used to be, and you can see them sometimes. You can wave, you can remember the days you floated together, but you can't go back. The river only flows one way, forward. This is the loneliness of growth. It's not that you're losing friends, it's that you're shedding versions of yourself that those friendships were built on. And when the foundation changes, the structure can't hold. You're not the same person who said yes to everything, who laughed off disrespect, who stayed small to make others feel big, who ignored red flags because you didn't want to be alone. That version of you is gone, and the people who loved that version, they're mourning her. Or him, they're trying to resurrect someone who no longer exists. And when you refuse to play that role, when you stand firm in your new frequency, it feels like betrayal to them. But to you, it's survival. Here's what happens when you stop trying to hold on to friendships that no longer fit. You create space. And space is sacred. It's in the space that new connections find you. People who match your current vibration. People who don't need you to explain your growth because they're on the same path. People who celebrate your evolution instead of resenting it. People who see you, not the old you, not the curated you, but the real, raw, rising you, and say, yes, I see you and I'm here. But you'll never meet those people if your energy is still tied up, trying to force old connections to work. If you're still contorting yourself to fit into spaces that have become too small. If you're still watering dead plants hoping they'll bloom again. This is the hard part. The part where you have to choose yourself, even when it feels selfish. Even when people call you cold. Even when you're sitting alone on a Friday night, wondering if you made the right choice. You did. You always do when you choose alignment over approval. Think about the moon. Every month it moves through phases. New moon, waxing, full, waning, and back again. Each phase necessary, each phase temporary. You wouldn't look at the waning moon and say it's broken. You wouldn't demand it stay full forever. You understand that it's cycling, that it's changing, that it has to go dark before it can be full again. So why do you judge yourself for the same natural process? Why do you think there's something wrong with you when you're simply in a different phase than the people around you? You're in your waning phase right now, releasing what no longer serves, letting go of who you've outgrown, creating the darkness necessary for rebirth. And yes, it's uncomfortable, yes, it's lonely, but it's not permanent. The new moon always comes, and with it, new light, new energy, new connections that match the frequency you've been cultivating in the dark. The science backs this up too. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, means that as you change your thoughts, your habits, your environment, you literally change your brain. You create new neural pathways, you strengthen different networks, and as your internal world shifts, your external world must shift to match it. The people, the places, the opportunities that once fit your old wiring no longer compute. They feel off because they are off. Your system is literally rejecting what doesn't match your new frequency. And the people still operating on the old frequency. They're not feeling what you're feeling. They're comfortable where they are. They don't want change. They don't want growth. They want things to stay the same because the same feels safe. And when you start changing, you're disrupting their safety. You're proving that change is possible, that growth is real, that staying stuck is a choice, and that terrifies them. So they'll try to pull you back, not because they don't love you, but because your evolution challenges their stagnation. And it's easier to make you the problem than to face their own resistance to change. The cipher of inner stillness is a poetic journey through the hidden geometry of peace. Blending mystical philosophy, Jungian psychology, and cosmic symbolism, this ebook reveals that silence is not the absence of life, it is its source. Discover this and other codices that transform the way you see the universe through the link in the description. This is where compassion comes in. Not the kind of compassion that sacrifices your peace to keep others comfortable, but the kind that allows you to see the situation clearly without bitterness. They're not villains. You're not a victim. You're just on different paths now, and that's okay. You can love people from a distance. You can honor what was without clinging to what is. You can wish them well without staying in a connection that depletes you. This isn't cold. This is conscious. This is choosing your energy over nostalgia. But here's where people get stuck. They confuse detachment with cruelty. They think setting boundaries means burning bridges. They think choosing themselves means abandoning everyone else. And so they stay. They suffer. They shrink. They pretend. Because the fear of loneliness feels bigger than the pain of dimming their light. But loneliness isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Losing yourself is. And every moment you spend trying to maintain a connection that requires you to be less than who you are, you're choosing their comfort over your soul. And that's a price too high to pay. So what do? How do you navigate this shift without guilt, without grief, without feeling like you're doing something wrong? You honor the transition. You let yourself feel the loss without making it mean you failed. You understand that outgrowing people is proof of your expansion, not evidence of your inadequacy. You stop waiting for permission to evolve. You stop apologizing for your growth. You stop explaining yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you. And you trust. You trust that the right people will find you, that the universe is always conspiring in your favor, that every ending is making room for a beginning, that the loneliness you feel now is temporary, but the person you're becoming is permanent. You trust that you're not being abandoned, you're being redirected, not being rejected, you're being protected, not losing friends, you're gaining alignment. This is the part they don't show you in the transformation stories. The gap, the in-between, the space where you've let go of the old but haven't yet received the new. It's uncomfortable, it's uncertain, it's quiet, but it's also sacred. Because it's in this space that you learn to be enough for yourself, to enjoy your own company, to trust your own voice, to stop seeking external validation and start building internal worth. And that's the foundation everything else is built on. When you're no longer desperate for connection, you attract better connections. When you're no longer afraid of being alone, you stop settling for people who make you feel lonely. When you're no longer trying to prove your worth, you start recognizing your value. And from that place, that solid, centered, aligned place, you become magnetic. Not to everyone, but to your people, the ones who were always meant to find you, the ones who see your light and don't ask you to dim it, the ones who match your frequency because they've been doing their own work too. And when those connections come, and they will come, they'll feel different, easier, more natural, like coming home to a place you've never been but always knew existed. There will be no performance, no pretending, no exhausting effort to be understood. Just presence, just resonance, just two frequencies harmonizing without trying. And you'll realize that everything you released to get here was worth it, that every person who walked away made room for someone better, that every moment of loneliness was actually solitude, a gift, not a punishment, a chance to meet yourself fully before inviting others in. This is what rising in frequency looks like. It's not always glamorous, it's not always comfortable, but it's always worth it. Because on the other side of this shedding, on the other side of this loneliness, on the other side of this vibrational shift, is a version of you that's more aligned, more authentic, more alive than you've ever been. And that version of you deserves friendships that match that energy, relationships that nourish instead of drain, connections that expand instead of contract. So if you're in that in-between space right now, if you're watching old friendships fade and wondering if something's wrong with you, let me tell you what's really happening. You're not losing friends, you're shedding frequencies, you're releasing energetic mismatches, you're making room for your soul tribe. And even though it feels like loss right now, even though it hurts, even though you're questioning everything, this is happening for you, not to you. This is the universe rearranging your life to match the frequency you're becoming. Trust it, honor it, and know that the loneliness is temporary, but the alignment is forever. You're not broken for changing. You're not wrong for growing. You're not cold for choosing yourself. You're simply becoming, and becoming requires releasing. Releasing the old to make space for the new, releasing who you were to become who you're meant to be. Releasing connections that no longer fit to make room for ones that do. This is the path, this is the process, this is how transformation works. Not in addition to loss, but through it. Not despite the pain, but because of it. And one day, sooner than you think, you're going to look around and realize you're surrounded by people who get it, who get you, who don't need you to explain or defend or justify your growth, who celebrate your evolution because they're evolving too. And in that moment, you'll understand why everyone else had to leave. Why the universe cleared your circle. Why the loneliness was necessary. Because these people, your real people, your soul people, your frequency-matched people, they were always waiting for you. They just couldn't find you while you were still pretending to be someone else. So let go. Let them go. Let the old version of you go. Let the friendships that require you to be small go. Let the fear of being alone go. Let the guilt go. Let the grief go. Not because it didn't matter, but because holding on to it is keeping you from what's coming. And what's coming is so much better than what's leaving. What's coming matches who you're becoming, and who you're becoming is worth every single person you had to release to get here. If this message found you, it's because you needed to hear it. You're not losing friends, you're changing vibration. And that's not a tragedy, that's a triumph. That's proof that you're doing the work, that you're rising, that you're choosing alignment over comfort. And even though it's lonely right now, even though it hurts, even though you're questioning everything, keep going. The right people are on their way. Your frequency is calling them in. And when they arrive, you'll understand why everyone else had to leave. You'll see that the universe wasn't taking from you. It was making space for you, for the real you, the rising you, the you that's finally ready to be seen. And if this resonated with something deep in your soul, if you felt seen by these words, consider subscribing, not for the algorithm, but for yourself, for the reminder that your growth isn't selfish, that your evolution isn't wrong, that your rising isn't a betrayal, it's a becoming, and you're exactly where you need to be. To celebrate your arrival, we've prepared a gift, a guide to help you navigate your inner transitions with clarity and elegance. Alignment, 7 Phases of Consciousness Awakening. Download your copy from the link in the description.